Really interesting story in The Guardian that I thought I'd share with you. Iceland law to outlaw male circumcision sparks row over religious freedom. Jewish and Muslim leaders condemn first European country to propose ban. So, yes, Iceland would be the first country to do this. The bill proposes a penalty of up to 6 years in prison for anyone carrying out a circumcision other than for medical reasons. In the article, they say, quote, 1 in 3 men globally is thought to be circumcised, the vast majority for religious or cultural reasons. Many Jews and Muslims fear the issue of circumcision could become a proxy for anti-Semitism and Islamophobia, pointing to similar tensions over religious dress and the ritual slaughter of animals for meat. The bill says the circumcision of young boys violates their rights and is incompatible with the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. And they draw a parallel with female genital mutilation, which is already outlawed in most European countries. And it's also important to bring up that this would still allow people to get circumcised if they want when they grow up, and they can make that decision for themselves. But when they're young, when they're babies, and they just do it, they're saying, no, that we're stopping. So there's a bunch of stuff to say about this. First of all, I think one of the main things that people object to is the comparison between male genital mutilation and female genital mutilation. They say, listen, male circumcision, even if you're against it, it's just simply don't compare it to female genital mutilation because there's not nearly as much pain. When you do female genital mutilation, I think there's arguments that it takes away all pleasure in sex from a woman. Whereas if you do male genital mutilation, circumcision, it just decreases the pleasure that you get from sex. So I think that's one of the main things people object to. I can understand that objection, certainly more than I understand other objections. I do think female genital mutilation is probably worse, but my take on it is I still think circumcision is wrong. So I'm circumcised. I was born and raised Catholic. I guess it's a Catholic tradition or whatever. And I've often said I would have preferred not having been circumcised. It's weird now because it's taken such a hold in various cultures that people, it's almost like it's socially, you get the upper hand socially if you are circumcised. So it's such a normal part of culture that, in many cultures, I should say, that it's looked upon almost more favorably than being uncircumcised. But listen, I just think, for a variety of reasons, I would prefer to be uncircumcised. And so let's get to the heart of the issue, which is, what really is it? Like, what is going on with circumcision? Well, if you go back and look at the roots of it, it 100% has its roots in religion. Now, you can try to argue against that, but you're just wrong, because that is what it is. Like, it has its roots in religion. And the Christopher Hitchens point on this is, we wouldn't even be having the conversation if it wasn't for religion, which got us to this point. It would be viewed as if circumcision wasn't a thing, and then somebody showed up in the year 2018, they're like, anyway, so here's a knife, and I'm going to cut off the tip of my baby's dick. We'd all be like, whoa, what? No, that's a crime. You're like assaulting the poor kid and doing permanent damage. And yeah, I think that's true. And it has its roots in religion. Now, what's happened on this issue is that as time has gone by, now there's been a giant scientific effort to give intellectual backing and high-minded rationalizations as to why circumcision is not only okay, but they actually make the argument it's preferable. And they say, for example, hey, it reduces STD rates. It's cleaner. It reduces STD rates, so that's why it's a good thing. And there's a variety of scientific arguments that have been made in favor of circumcision. But I don't find those compelling, and the reason is very simple. So if you say, hey, you just reduce the number of people who get whatever, fill in the blank, gonorrhea, syphilis, AIDS, whatever, by 37%, let's argue, I just made up that number for the record. Well, okay, you can reduce it by 96% if you just cut off their dick completely. Does that mean it's preferable to cut off somebody's dick completely? No, of course not. We'd all laugh that out of the room. I don't care how much you reduce, the chance of an STD, the likelihood of an STD. Cutting off the dick I have a problem in principle with cutting off the dick. By the same token, I would argue I have a problem in principle with cutting off the tip of a baby dick. Call me crazy. But religion has gotten us to believe that it's somehow the more reasonable thing to do. I mean, think about that for a second. That's the more reasonable thing to do? Like, yeah, I cut off my tip of my baby's dick. What? That's so bizarre. So, I agree with the notion of if you want to make it so that when they get old enough, they can make the decision, hey, I want to do it. And let's all be clear. Yes, when you're older, it will hurt you more and you'll be more traumatized by it. But you shouldn't be making that decision for your child because that is a giant thing, And yeah, I don't, and let me be clear, I don't feel like I'm scarred over it. I mean, I guess I'm literally scarred because I'm circumcised, but I don't feel like I have any mental or emotional scars over it at all, but I still would have preferred not to have it done. So yes, I agree with what they're doing here. They're saying, listen, you get older, you want to get it yourself, by all means, go cut off the tip of your own dick, be my guest. But I think that they're generally right, that this is a human rights issue. It is a matter of the rights of the child. And no, the parents shouldn't willy-nilly decide we're going to chop off the tip of our baby's dick. So, I mean, it's honestly, stop and think about it. It's so ridiculous when you really put it into context. I mean, it is just utterly ridiculous. But that's the power of culture. That's the power of religion. It gets people to not be objective about what they're actually doing. And that's what happened here. Everybody thinks it's normal, myself included, until I don't know how old I was when I finally said, hey, this is kind of bullshit. But for a while, I was like, what do you mean? Of course, it's normal. You get circumcised. What do you mean? It's just normal. No, really not. It's really just because a lot of people do it. I mean, there was a time when everybody in the world, everybody in the world believed the earth was flat. They were wrong. So I don't care that 1/3 of people today believe cutting off the tip of your baby's dick is the right thing to do. Doesn't make it right at all. So yes, I agree with this. And no, by the way, the arguments of like, this is going to stop religious freedom. It's not going to stop religious freedom. You want to chop off the tip of your own dick? Be our guest. If you're an adult, you want to make the decision, go right ahead. Go right ahead. Nobody cares. Do it to your own dick. Who cares? It's about you imposing it on your child, on a fucking baby that doesn't know anything. That's the problem. And stop pretending like this is going to lead to anti-Semitism and Islamophobia. No, it's not. No, it's not. This is going to lead to a preventing of cutting off the tips of baby dicks. That's all this is going to do, and that's something that's desirable. That was phrased weirdly. It's desirable to stop the cutting off the tips of baby dicks. It's not, the baby dicks themselves are not desirable. Okay, that's creepy. We're going to stop talking now.